Our guest today needs no introduction because she's actually already been a guest on our podcast. Many of you know who she is, Kelly Brown.
Woohoo!
Hey guys!
We're so excited to have you on today as kind of a recap from our event that we had a couple weeks ago about branding yourself as a real estate agent. So we kind of want to, in case you were able to miss or you weren't able to come or if you missed it or if you just want to deepen your understanding.
Or listen to it again.
Yeah. So we're going to dive right in.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
Yes.
So first things first, why is branding yourself important?
Oh gosh, so such a journey with figuring out branding for me. I'd say, so I've been a real estate agent for 6 years now, right? So I would say in the beginning, I was like, I just followed everyone else. Like there's not a lot of people in real estate that truly brand themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I sat back for a little bit. I didn't do it. I saw the whole, everyone's on. I'm like, do I have to be on park benches and, fold my arms and do headshots and do all that cheesy stuff? And having been somebody in a creative industry from photography and doing custom albums and all that, I loved that part of it. And it was almost by mistake that I started just branding myself and doing things different. But I think it's important because it gives you leverage and options later should you choose. If you brand yourself, you're the deal. It's you. It's not your brokerage. It's you. And you have more options later.
Yeah.
You also can just stand out. More people are getting more savvy with it, I think, now. But 6 years ago, no one was really branding themselves. So you can really stand out by doing something even a little different.
So like Brooke and I love like steps like A, B, C,
Tangible, actionable advice
so
for people.
What would you say is the first thing you did? And maybe you didn't even realize it when you were like branding yourself. Maybe it was just something you were doing and you didn't even realize that was like the first step. But what is the first step you did in order to brand Kelly?
I love that. So first of all, I made a lot of mistakes, right? But I didn't have a lot of money in the beginning to do any branding.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, who does when they get into real estate?
No
right?
one does. You don't have a budget and you don't know. But one of the first things I did, this is so funny, but my still designer I found on Craigslist. And she's a rock star.
Really?
And she is still our designer. So there's books that you can read in real estate that this is your first hire, this is your second hire. My first hire was somebody for design. So I started doing that because I didn't want the cheesy, typical templates that my brokerage had. So I started doing that. So that was one thing different. Now, that could sound expensive, but it wasn't. I pay her by the hour. She's still my designer, and that's amazing. So I'd say that was the one thing that I did different. And we can talk about that more later because there's so many options for people at different budgets, right?
Yeah.
And then I would say the other thing that stood out for me is it was gray area, really wasn't supposed to with the brokerage I was at, not follow the exact rules. But all of a sudden one day I put my favorite color on my signs. Blue, aqua blue. And that just stuck. And that was, something I tried. I thought it was fun.
And no one has that color. Like
stuck.
that's you, right? Like that no one has. Well, I haven't seen that in Minnesota.
You'll start to see more people have asked me for my Pantone color. And I'm like, really? But yeah, it's just different. And it's something that now, since we're selling more, it's taken 6 years to do this, but even a sign from a far distance, you can't see what it says, but it's aqua blue. So it's just something that for me in the beginning, I tried and it stuck.
And would you say you did this within the first year of being in the real estate industry, within the first 6 months, or you were like, okay, I just got to get leads in the door and get people selling houses or helping people buy. And so then I'm going to I'll get to this.
Good question.
Because how important, this is a twofold question, is how important is it to do that sooner rather than later? Or I'm trying to just be building up my business.
It's
and
never
I'll
too
get to
late.
it.
No, it's never too late. But in the beginning, you have to follow brokerage requirements. So, my brokerage in the beginning where I was at, I couldn't do much. Anyway, then I switched and I started doing things gray area, dipping over here, putting my logo, branding more. But you asked how long? Well, for sure over a year. I think a lot of people look at me and they're like, because we went from zero, no volume to 100 million in 6 years with the help of my rockstar team. But it took 2 years to get this going. I wish I would have had foresight to do some of this stuff in the beginning and not be afraid to not break the rules, but teeter-totter but you have to follow your brokerage requirements. So now my brokerage requirements, I have so much more freedom to brand myself. So maybe if I would have known that, I think in the beginning, you start at a brokerage, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Very well said.
So then you learn. I've had 4 brokerage changes in 6 years. So it's helped me, and I've developed and I figured it out. But now I'm somewhere where I can truly brand myself and I have less restrictions. So for someone in the beginning, if you have restrictions, you can't do as much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, what did you feel like changed first for you once you invested in that designer and like started putting that color? Like, did you notice a shift?
Not immediately, no. But then, eventually people will be like, oh my gosh, I see your blue. Oh my gosh, I see you here. And it was a cumulative effort of different things. Okay, I'm on Instagram. I'm doing a video. There's a sign. She's at an open. So it takes time. And I've had people say, I just did my Zoom on this yesterday, because a lot of people think all this social media and all this is like overnight. Oh my gosh, you're not getting leads right away. It is not right away. It takes time, and you have to stick with it.
And I think what you said about like just recognition, like brand recognition, right? So it started with people recognizing you, and then it grows from there.
Yeah.
That the aqua is Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then it also, and I'm not trying to speak for you, but then it also probably helps you gain team members on your team, because they also want to see that, they want that similar branding of Kelly Brown instead of maybe a red or blue.
Typical, or a balloon, or something different. But anyone can duplicate. I mean, not duplicate mine, but anyone can create that. On our team, we have a team of 10. They plug in, they have the branding done. So that's something that I've done. But I talk to agents all the time about how they can brand themselves. And there's different people in the industry that do that. So somebody can, obviously do that on their own too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and when it comes back to the very beginning, we talking about the designer and everything, what exactly did you have her design?
Yeah, good question. So this was brochure design. It was coming soon, for sale. Like a lot of these at the brokerage, there's templates that you could use, but I'm like, I don't like that font. Like I came from an album design world where I'm like, I don't want Zapfino. Everyone's using Zapfino. So I was like a little bit more. So I wouldn't say, none of my stuff is that crazy. It's still real estate related. Yes, my photo is still on it. I thought that was super cheesy at first. I'm like, really? Photos, like what other industry does that? We, real estate, insurance, but it's kind of, so I've gotten over some few things. It's not like I did things too crazy, but I just did them a little different with my fonts. I like things more modern. I like crisp lines. So, but it was that kind of stuff. It was coming soon and for sale, and my for sale signs, my open house signs. So it just started trickling. And now we have a whole campaign on it. But, one of your questions in the beginning was like, where do you start? I mean, you don't have to start with all of that in the beginning.
Right.
But you do want it to be cohesive. So then you just keep adding on things.
And I like how you said campaign, because that's truly like what it is. I mean, down to your emails, like your emails give the same feel that your Instagram posts do, that your signs do, that your brochures do.
Yes.
Like you see it and you know it's Kelly Brown Homes, even without seeing the logo or your name on it.
Yeah, because of the blue maybe.
And I think that could be a good exercise. Like I'm just thinking out loud, like if you are unsure about if your brand is cohesive, because we struggled with this with the podcast at the beginning.
When we started,
we would post things or we would create things, but it wasn't always the same colors. It wasn't always, we kind of just did what we liked. But it's like, no, if somebody saw this, would they know it's you without your name on it? That's kind of a good exercise.
Yeah, it is. And you guys do a really great job at that. Like when I see your mail campaigns and all, but it does evolve.
Yeah.
And it's okay to start somewhere and not have it be perfected. I mean, even talking about this right now, I kind of feel like a hypocrite, because I'm like, I really want to rebrand. Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to keep that aqua, but you evolve and you change things and you add things on. And I think that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, you got to keep up with the times. I mean, like even with the podcast, we'll say, is what it was 2 years ago with our logo and pictures and colors. I mean, there was one point our office was filled with Etsy. I don't know if I should say Etsy
Templates,
stuff,
yeah.
but like
No, you can buy templates,
and
yes.
colors and things of what
Start
spoke
somewhere.
to us.
Yeah, and like what spoke to our ideal client too. Like asking yourself, like, because we could have done like a black, white, and red, but that's not our ideal client. Our ideal
Who
client,
we wanted to attract.
exactly.
Yeah.
So asking yourself that too, like your aquamarine might not appeal to somebody in the middle of nowhere, St. Cloud, selling their farm or something like that, but that's not your target market.
Yep. And, you know, we did this branding the other day with Sarah Schultz. And what does she say all the time? Your yummy client. What does she say?
Your dreamy client.
Your dreamy client. Like eventually when you get busy, in the beginning, being a realtor, you will work with anyone, anywhere in the world. Like you will do anything.
Yes.
But when you boil it down, you really need to work with people when you get busy that are your dreamy clients that, you know, like and trust you, that, you know, you're on the same page with. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. We're actually having Sarah on in a couple months.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to hear the follow up.
So you've talked about your brokerage quite a bit and how you've made a few changes over the years. And so why is it so important? So if there's like a new agent on here, I guess maybe you could give a tip or trick of maybe doing your due diligence in regards to branding yourself and your brokerage to make sure, I don't want to say make sure, but
Well, there's brokerage requirements and there's state requirements. So of branding. So you have to
Yes.
follow the rules. I'm a gray area person, so sometimes I dabble over here and I kind of figured out, but you have to follow those rules. What was your question? I forgot.
Advice to do like due diligence on your brokerage.
Yeah, I mean,
to make sure that you can brand yourself.
Yeah, you have to get it checked off. You got to get it checked off. But I'll say this. So a couple years ago, there used to be state requirements that were more specific. So I can't remember exactly, don't quote me, but it was like your logo or the brokerage logo had to be bigger than your logo.
Yes, you brought this up on the event, and this is what I was trying to
Yeah.
roundabout way get to, so I'm sorry.
Okay, good. So, but then it changed a couple years ago, or maybe like a year or so ago. And here's the thing. No brokerages tell you this. No one's going to be like, hey, it changed. And guess what it says now? It says now their logo has to be prominent. That's very vague. To me, prominent means that it just needs to be on there.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be the exact same as yours.
No. And my broker now allows me to do that. So I'm all about Kelly Brown Homes is large. EXP is down below and is smaller. When I brand my girls, I'm all about branding my team individually. So Taya, Shelby, they are the thing. They are larger. And then down below is Kelly Brown Homes and EXP. So I'm allowed to do that. But what you got to was like, it's so, not a lot of people know that. Brokerages don't. And I'm like, when I caught on to that, I was like, oh, wait, something changed? Something changed? So you can, I mean, again, you have those brokerage requirements. So whatever you signed, you have to adhere to. But the state of Minnesota changed that. And now it needs to be prominent.
And also too, like for people who aren't at EXP, like let's say your brokerage has those traditional red, blue colors, but that doesn't vibe with yours. I really encourage you to reach out to your marketing person at your brokerage because I guarantee you they have a white or black logo file.
Yeah, that's really good.
Or like a smaller logo file or like a logo versus the name of the brokerage that you can still like put on there.
But sometimes they don't. I mean, there's a brokerage in town, more luxury. I mean, that's what it is. You know, I think their people are. But here's the thing. When you start, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And then if this becomes important to you, which it's became really important to me because like I've realized now with branding, I can take me anywhere. Like, you know, I want to switch brokerages. I want to be the broker. I outgrow my broker. For whatever reason, I take Kelly Brown wherever I want. So I think people just have to kind of figure that out in the beginning. Sometimes people might not, everyone has a different, you know, want. You know, maybe some people don't mind having that specific branding for their broker and they don't mind that. But there are a lot of brokerage requirements that they don't allow you to do a whole lot.
Yeah. And I've saw this quote somewhere, like I read a book about it, and it was like personal branding is like permanent job security. Because like you said, like
it.
let's say you know, this is for people listening that maybe aren't, you know, maybe are part-time agents or, you know, and they're working full-time. If you have your personal brand, you can go anywhere. You could do anything, you know?
It's huge.
Because like, let's just say you decided you didn't want to be in the real estate industry anymore and you wanted to go back to photography. Like people would still recognize that name.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what happened to me because I was Kelly Brown Weddings and now I'm Kelly Brown Homes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. I think that's good.
Yeah. Is it my turn to ask the next question? Liz,
Sorry.
you're looking at me like, is it
What's
like, am I
next?
missing something?
Sorry.
How does strong branding help you grow your business? I know we talked about, did we already ask that question? Kind of,
It's kind of tied in.
we've been talking about it.
But I'll say this is one thing I wanted to say on that question is we talk about branding, we're talking about logos and brochures and open signs and all that. But there is, that's the stuff that we see. I read this quote and I love it and I put it on my Instagram and it's your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. And I loved that because as a realtor, your brand becomes you, who you are, what you stand for. You get deals done. You write good offers. You don't, whatever that is, like you end up being it so much more than your branding. I know we're talking about that in the colors and all the fonts and all the things that are pretty, but it's even more than that in real estate.
Very well said.
So I think too, like with growing my team, we're a team of 10 women. Growing my team, when you see blue, someone new on my team, this is our brand now. This is how we write offers. This is how we present offers. We talk to agents. We do amazing photography. We do amazing video. We have a 21-day pre-marketing plan. Like it's a whole thoughtful brand.
This is what we give as closing gifts.
Yeah. it's all Minnesota-based fun stuff. Yeah, it's just a whole thoughtful. So I think when we talk about this, that's the one thing I want to say is, there's some of this that's visual, but a lot of this brand too is who you are as a realtor because it's such a personal business.
And speaks to the level of service that you are providing for the clients.
Yep. So you see blue, it's this consistent what we do.
And that's a testament to your team and like who you are as a leader on your team. Because even at a brokerage, when you join a brokerage, they don't coach you on, this is how you represent yourself as an agent at our brokerage.
No, and for sure they're not going to teach you how to brand yourself.
Well, no,
They want their brand out there.
Yeah.
Most brokerages, they want it to be about them. They are the reason why you're getting leads. They are the reason it's about them, and they make a lot of money doing that. And when you figure out and you add up how much you pay to a brokerage, which is what I started doing, I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of money there where all of a sudden I could redistribute and do my own thing, hire my own branding person, So I think it's really important. And one thing I always say is you are the brand, not your brokerage. Your brokerage wants you to think that they are it. And for some people, it might be. For some people, maybe they're getting leads. Maybe they're getting free desk space. But for the average person, they are not. And so I think people are getting smarter about it and seeing, especially with all the social media, that when you're a realtor, you are the brand, not your broker.
Absolutely. So we've kind of touched on this, again, but like making your brand stand out, doing what feels right to you. But like, how do you stand out against a sea of 20,000 plus real estate agents?
Yeah, no.
Because not everyone's going to have the beautiful color like you do. Like not everyone's going to have that aqua, right? Well, I mean,
other than the people that asked you
that
for
asked
the
you and are
code.
trying to, but like, great question.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, again, it's a very personal business, so you have to be you. You figure that out. I think there's different ways on a budget. Either you're starting out and you don't have a lot of money to spend, or you're a more seasoned agent and maybe you're like, shoot, I need to think about this now. So I think there's I might be getting off topic, but there's lower budget things that you can do. Like I did in the beginning, I found someone on Craigslist who ends up being a rock star that is the longest person I've had on my team, even before Taya. So there's ways to figure that out. There's Fiverr, there's Etsy. I mean, there's all these Instagram things that always like, you can buy these templates and these templates, and maybe you buy it and then maybe you customize. You could find a student, somebody in marketing school that wants a project, right? And it's less money. But then, so there's things that you can do. There's no excuse to not start and do something somewhere, right? But then you could step up from that too. And there's more expensive ways. Obviously, you were talking about Sarah Schultz. She's amazing at branding. But now 6 years later, that's the stuff I'm finally doing.
That you can invest in. You can see the ROI.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you have more budget for it maybe later. So there's different spectrums of what you want to spend, I guess, for branding.
So to get to, because I feel like we've touched a little bit on this as well, of what different things to do if you are a new agent. So like investing in type of things of like you can do Etsy for a reasonable amount while starting out in branding, or like you talked about like Craigslist, which is actually a really great idea. I didn't even think of that because I feel like I don't even think of Craigslist anymore.
Who does? No, and that was 6 years ago. But like Fiverr, you can go on Fiverr and you can find 3 different people, pay them each $50 to put out some logos, and then you tweak them. There's logo companies out there. There's signature companies out there. There's, you start with you figure out what is your color scheme, what are your fonts, and then you just take it elsewhere. But there's different, there's so many places that you could either mimic templates or change them, or go on Fiverr and hire someone.
Yeah. And I think I said this at the event, but I also recommend like don't look up real estate templates because you are going to see them everywhere.
Script is super popular.
The script font.
Every yeah.
I think it's beautiful and it works for people's, it works.
Brands, yeah.
But when you and somebody else have the exact same logo with like the home behind it and like, you know what I mean? Like just be careful for that. Cause like we've experienced that, Lizzie and I on the podcast, like our font or our logo that we got off Etsy because we're not graphic designers and we didn't have the money to do it because we're
just trying to figure this thing out.
Figuring it out. Yeah.
Somebody else, some company, some restaurant bought the logo.
A pie company.
Literally a pie company. So another thing that Lizzie and I did is like we ended up when we got to a point where we're like, okay, we have potential here. Like let's invest in it a little bit. We hired Alexandra Marketing Company,
which is now Good Times.
Alex, don't kill us. We will link you in the show notes. We promise. But we invested in her and she helped us create this system. And that does go back to branding totally because, and I didn't even think about this until you said it, but we hired her to help us create a system for like our guest experience. Just like how you said, like you have the, this is how we write offers and this is how we like, present listing, like from the start to the finish, how you do it. Yeah. Like we wanted a consistent experience and like that's really helped us
take it to the next
level. I feel like we have a different confidence about ourselves because we invested in somebody else. And also too, like you don't have to be a graphic designer to be a great agent, you don't have to be a great graphic designer to be a great agent.
Well, no one has the skill set typically. You usually have to find somebody. I mean, you can do it yourself, you could figure it out, but most of the time you could find somebody for a reasonable amount and have them do it.
And I just feel like there is this feeling of like when somebody else creates something for you, it just feels, because you are going to constantly nitpick your own stuff always.
100%.
I don't know. And it builds you up and gives you confidence. Like I invested in myself. I invested in my business. Like now I got to go work for it.
One of the things you said before too that I was thinking of is you can look at other realtors inside Minnesota, but how about look at other industries outside of Minnesota, whoever it is. You mentioned hotels.
Oh yeah, like boutique hotels.
I don't know, shops. Like just look at other people's colors, fonts, and maybe that's where you get ideas. For me,
the pie restaurant down the road
that mimicked you. They got you. But look outside of Minnesota. Look at other, that's a lot, we're looking at that for not only branding, but where we get our ideas for social media too. We're not looking at other realtors. We're like, who's killing social media in other markets, on other, in other industries. So to look outside and get ideas is, I guess, my point.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And plus that's like fun to do, And Sarah mentioned this at the event. It's called like creativemarket.com or something like that.
We'll link that in.
We'll link it in. But basically like you go on and it'll tell you about like the emerging trends, and the fonts that are on there are like packaging. I know that sounds super weird, but like packaging of something, like, and you see the font, you're like, I've never seen a real estate agent with this font, like ever. And you're like, oh my gosh, look at the opportunity to be so different.
Love that.
Creative
Sam,
market.
I want you to write that down.
Yeah.
I love that because it's all in, and then you start somewhere, but then it trickles, like on our gift stuff. And now we have stickers on our gifts and our packaging, and it's all like, Yeah, I like that.
And down to your mailers. So, for example, like Ryan Walseth, Lake Sotheby's, he's phenomenal. We've had him on the podcast a couple times too. But he sends out these mailers. I don't want to give away his secret. He sends out these mailers that, let's just say, like, if you got it in the mail, you don't want to throw the mailer away.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unique.
It's unique, and you don't want to throw it away. And that's part of his brand.
Well, I think that's brilliant because so many people are still selling or sending out calendars, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that's something really unique that he does. I love it.
Yeah. Think and ask yourself too, like, would I want to receive this in the mail? Or like, do I want to, if I posted this on social media, like, would I want to look at it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you do anything different? Not that you have regrets or that you should have regrets, but
It's a journey.
starting as a new agent, now knowing what you know about branding, what would you do anything different, or what would you?
I would have done it sooner. I would have understood brokerages better and splits and how much money you pay, because I think some of that too is, in the beginning, you don't have any money, but if you're giving all your commission away, all of a sudden you could have more money and do it on your own. So, but you just got to start. There's, what do they call it? Paralysis, analysis, paralysis,
yes.
or whatever, right? Like,
Yes.
just start, go somewhere, go to a brokerage. You can always, 4 brokerages, 6 years, no regrets. But I'd understand it a little bit better and not be afraid to make switches quick if I need to. I think we get,
Fail fast.
Yeah, fail fast, fail forward, just do it. Sometimes we're at a brokerage and we're like, oh, what are they going to think? I already changed 2 times. I better stay here. And then that's one of the big things that I realized over a year ago. We switched to EXP and I thought, oh my gosh, it's more known now than it was then. And I thought, what are all my clients going to say? And what I realized, we had a lot going on. I had one person ask me. And they were older and it was and they still stayed with me and it was all good. But no one else even asked me because they were like, well, some people even said, we thought you were your own broker. So some of that.
That's a testament to your brand right there.
Yeah. So, but I'd say just, know what you're paying, know what, you have to do, but don't be afraid to make changes. As you grow, you just figure out more. As you grow, maybe that's not the right fit anymore. You outgrew your brokerage. Then you can do something different where you're able to do maybe more of your own thing.
Would you give that exact same advice to a more experienced agent that has maybe 2 or 3 years under the belt? Because it is the same kind of, I feel like you can really take everything you said and still, if you're newer or 2 to 3 years of this, right? And in the past 2 years, if you got into the real estate and you are doing it right and successful. Right?
Well, see, that's the difference. So in the beginning, you're not doing as much volume, you're not making as much money. So you just got to start, you just got to figure it out, put yourself somewhere, get the training and start. But
so now you have the training, then what?
Now you have the training, and then 2 to 3 years, then you evaluate. And this is what you got to evaluate. How much money am I paying my broker? So I've talked to people recently. So, there's all different brokerages and everyone has to decide where they align. Everyone's different. All different brokerages have different value propositions. But okay, so you're like your discount broker. I talked to somebody the other day. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so inexpensive. But it's $500 per transaction, which doesn't sound like a lot until you've been in business longer, 2-3 years. If you're a kick butt agent, this agent did over 100 deals. That's $50,000 a year that they're paying their brokerage, and they're not getting leads. They're not getting anything. So now for me, when I look at that, I'm like, what could I do with that money? Right? I could
hire
I
somebody.
could buy leads. I could hire someone full time. There's so much that you could do with that. So I'd say when you ask about a more experienced agent, when you start doing more volume, that's what it is. When you start doing more volume, you add up what you're paying. Some of these other brokerages, they pay 20 or 10% indefinitely to their broker. When you start doing more volume, that's like that's 6 figures and over a year. That's a lot of money. So that's the stuff that you evaluate. And then a lot of people are kind of paralyzed because they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to hire. But you just start hiring people. I got Sam recently sitting right here. Like, that was a big thing. She's my first employee, really. And she's my, I failed forward twice. And now she's my 3rd time's a charm. But you figure that out. But I could be paying 6 figures to another broker doing that. Otherwise, I just manage it myself. So I think that's what changes over time. You start to do more volume, and then you need to analyze, where do I really want that money? And you really got to add it up. because there's a lot of money that's going to brokers. And if people are feeling like it's a benefit, fantastic. But some people are like, whoa, I paid $130,000 last year and I didn't even get office space. Wait, what?
Yeah.
So then you can take that to branding. Then you can take that to building yourself.
Absolutely. And another thing I would suggest too about like every 2 to 3 years, and I think that this, I don't know who has told me this or if I've just accumulated this knowledge, but like do an audit on yourself. Like look at your website. I have gone to so many real estate agents' websites and they have not been updated since 2005. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, are you still in business? You know? And like they are still in business, but you have to do a digital audit. So like checking your website, like does this align with me and my brand and who I am and the message I want to show my clients?
Yeah.
Does my bio match? Like, you know, changing your bio a little bit, like tweaking it, saying like, I've sold this many homes. Like instead of saying I've been in the business since 2008, you could say like, this is what I've done.
How established I am.
Changing that across all of your, you know, platforms like realtor.com, Zillow, LinkedIn, all of your, make sure to change that and like audit that as well.
I love that. Google yourself, see where you're showing up, and then go on all those realtor, whatever it is, and update them.
And also look at it on a desktop and look at it on your mobile because they look very different.
Yep.
And I've been meaning to talk to you about this, Lizzie, about our website because I was just having an epiphany. I was like, we need video on our website. Like we need to be, you know, because before, like, you know, 2 years ago when we made the website, we didn't think about that. But now it's like, yeah.
Well, and video was important, but almost not to where it is now.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic has pushed all of that.
Exactly. So just kind of like asking yourself, like, do I have the latest and greatest website? Do I have the latest and greatest bio? Like, is my Google business page up to date? Like,
Do you have a Google My Business page?
yeah.
All the things that we talk about, and you did that Zoom with me before. All those extra things. Yes.
Because it is what people find out about you when you're not in the room. Because it's what they find out about you when you're not telling them who you are. It's the research that they're doing on their own about you.
Everyone Googles us first for sure.
Absolutely.
And yes, and now in today's world, I feel like too is that like not only that you're not only Googling, then you're going to go on their social media and you want to do business with people who you feel either a connection with or like-minded, or we don't go back to that dreamy client and things like that. And if that's not all up to date,
I mean, talk the talk and walk the walk.
best
like
of
do
luck.
both. Yeah.
And take the time, write it down on a note, the things to do. I say this, we do a lot of trainings. People do get paralyzed when there's like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do.
where to begin?
But just start somewhere and start updating. And then, you know, Sam, we need to do this. We're updating my bio. Once I update my bio, boom, it will go on all the platforms. So just take a couple things and start somewhere versus getting super overwhelmed and not doing anything, because that happens to a lot of us.
Absolutely. Anything else to add, Kelly? Because this has been like a gold mine of information for people.
I have a YouTube. It's Kelly Brown Realtor or Kelly Brown Homes. I do a deeper dive on some of the branding that we've done. You can find it on there. But no, I super appreciate this. You guys are rock stars. Thanks
you.
for inviting me.
Thank you so
again.
much for being on.
Love it.
It's great to see how it's evolved. Like if you go back to like our 31st episode or something, like
Which this will be like 60.
yeah, it's you're talking about. I mean, it was almost 2 years ago, and like how you've changed your mindset about branding is interesting. You know,
It just evolves.
Yeah.
And this is motivating me right now. Sam and I are going to talk after this. I'm like, oh,
Sam's like, oh gosh, girl, I'm
Sam
gonna
has
be
things to do.
put to work.
Yeah, but I mean, this motivates me. It's like you say, every 2-3 years, whatever that is, when it feels like it's the right time for a little bit of, you know, rebranding. That's how it feels for me right now. So you girls motivated me. Thank you.
thank you, Kelly.